Make a video today. Um, this is a tough one for a lot of people. I know I dealt with a big issue, and I don't even know how I got through it. I really don't. And I've dealt with many versions of it since about 2005 till about 2010. And this is during my dating era. And I really don't count that 100%. When I was dating, I was looking for love, using technology to try to find love. And it wasn't really something that's for me. It's not really something I could force, as much as I tried to. And I met a lot of wonderful, wonderful women in that time. I still am friends with some of them to this day. But from 2010 till now, I've pretty much been celibate. On a couple of occasions, some in between there, but for the most part, I've been celibate, and that was a personal choice because I could play the game, and anybody can go out and get laid, but I wasn't trying to do that. And I guess, I don't know, the title of this video could be called What to Do When Someone Stops Loving You, how to deal with it, how to deal when somebody stops loving you, something like that. I'll figure it out. So what do you do? What do you do when someone stops loving you? Now, I was married. I was lucky enough to be married. And I was married. I was from 2000, well, let's figure it out. 1992 until 2004. And in 2005, the divorce finally finished. It was a long one. It was a long year there. So, I don't know, about 12 years, 13 years, and I don't regret any of it. I wouldn't change a thing. I was lucky. Most people never get that. However, I was fully invested emotionally, mentally, all of it. And when someone falls out of love with you, you can't force them to stay. Something I was not going to do. I wasn't going to force anyone to be somewhere where they weren't happy. I would never do that. And it's one of the things that you have to consider is the other person and what they're going through. It's hard to do, especially when you're thinking about your own heartbreak and what you think you're going to lose. For me, at that time, I felt like I was losing my best friend. I couldn't understand it. I couldn't believe it. I tried to understand it, but for a good portion of the first year, up to about 3 years, but really the first portion of the year, I blocked a lot out. And I suppressed my pain listening to a lot of heavy metal when I'm driving. Keith Urban at the time got me through it, and I was never a Keith Urban fan. And certain people came into my life just at the right time, especially right at the very beginning of it. I mean, literally, just before and right in the beginning of it. I was blessed to have had someone going through the same thing, and her and I could just at least vent, and it was nice, and it helped. But you got to watch the habit. I think I fell into it too, where you where you're already in the habit of being in a relationship. The comfort of it, and it's a natural instinct to want to seek that out right away. so you can fill that hole, that whatever that is missing, that divot that just ended up getting into your world. It was something that I instinctively was doing. I didn't know I was doing it, and I'm glad nothing came of it for both of us, because we're completely two different human beings, or at least consciousness. We're two different consciousness. We have two different belief systems. None of it would have worked out, but at the time, it was perfect. My advice to anybody who has someone in their life, and I'm talking from the perspective of being the person who who is in love, all right, and the other person fell out of love with you. What do you do? How do you deal with that? I don't have the perfect answer. I don't think anybody does, because every human being situation is so specific to themselves. But what I can offer you is some guidance and possibly some exercises and some things to look at and consider. So I think the first thing you want to consider is where this other person's coming from, right? Understand that they too are, and it may not seem like they're suffering, but they are suffering in some capacity. I can't really fathom why anybody would want to hurt another human being and then get some pleasure out of it. And in the games of relationships, that happens a lot, especially when you're getting divorced, especially when there are kids involved, and especially when there's money involved. People get really, really vicious, where you probably never seen that before, and if you did see it, you never thought it would turn your way. Well, I'm here to tell you that it can, it may, and when it does, realize that it's not you 100%. And if it is, and then you got issues, you got things to work on, you need to work on them. You need to become whole then. We'll get to that in a little bit, the whole half stuff. Because, two people don't make a whole. All right? You have to be completely centered, love yourself 100%, and then bring that into a relationship, and then bring out the best in the other person, and that person should do that for you as well. That's where it fosters. That's where it grows. But when it splits apart, and you've done everything in your power, and you know who you are, and you know you're true and you're honest, and you've done the best you possibly can, at that point, the hardest thing to do, but the best course of action, in my opinion, is to let go. I have a meme I made, and I'll probably pop it up while I'm speaking, but it's by the Buddha, and it's the root of all suffering is attachment. Okay? Attachment is the root of all suffering. And that's so true. Think about it. Say it a few times. In fact, bring it up to other people. The more you say it, the more you it makes sense. You can kind of own it. Not easy. It's not easy. But attachment is the root of all suffering, and the hardest thing to do is to let that person go. And then at that stage, when you're letting them go, you need to accept that it's quite possible that they don't love you anymore, and it's hurting them too, on some level. I think that if you truly love someone, you want them to be happy, whether it's with you or not. And I remember watching Bruce Almighty, And Jim Carrey said that to Jennifer Aniston. I think it's Jennifer Aniston. And in the movie, his character was with Morgan Freeman, who played God at the time. And he said, hey, give me a prayer. And goodwill towards all men and peace on earth. Well, that's great if you're running for mayor. But then he got real. And he says, don't you want her back? He says, no, I just want to be happy. And that's the greatest gift you can give someone, is to want them to be happy, even if it's without you. It's not easy. It's not easy. But in the end, that's the greatest gift you can give yourself. And so I was just thinking about that movie and how moving it was at the time when I was watching it. I was just watching it with my children when they were really little. And it hits home. It means a lot. And that goes for everybody, not just your significant other, but your kids. Oh, that's the hard one too. You want them to be happy, even if it's not with you. Come on, it's a kind of a given with your kids, isn't it? But when it comes to somebody that you're so intimate with and you've given so much of yourself to, that they just not there, or it was and it was great, and all of a sudden the next year it's not, and it's never going to be that way again. It's a hard one, Soul search yourself, right? Find yourself here. Not in spite of, not to make them feel bad. And I'm sure I was hitting the gym a lot, and in some glimmer there, maybe a 5% of me, wanted the other X or whatever to see me, and go, ooh, he looks good, and blah, blah, blah. And that's just ego. Now, I can say that now because I'm kind of out of the ego thing, and I don't do that anymore, and I've kind of grown away from that. Not that I don't care, it's just that I don't put emphasis on things that I know don't really matter. And I told my kids this, it doesn't matter what other people think of you, because what they think of you is none of your business. So when someone loves you and then stops loving you, it's very important that you find a way to love yourself. All right? Be responsible. Be true. But don't fall into the pattern that TV, movies, they teach you, right? They program you to react in an angry, negative way, or say negative things about them, or just carry negative emotions all the time about that person. If that person's a negative person and they're doing negative things to you, you got to react to it. You got to kind of respond and handle it, but you don't have to retaliate. That's key. I think there's a long-winded video here, but it means a lot to know that you're going to be okay. You were okay before this person came in your life, right? When you didn't even know they existed. And you're going to be okay after they leave your life. Sometimes, and I'm just going to kind of put this in context that, okay, so my ex-wife fell out of love with me. The divorce was a really long period. I think it was like 15 months, something like that. But 6 months into it, she ran into her current husband now, and they were together for quite a while before they got married. But they've been together now as long as we were married, which is great. But what I'm saying is that 6 months into it, she was able to find someone who was going through the same exact thing she was going through too, which is, it's all honestly serendipity. Serendipitous? It's all serendipitous. I'm going to take that as the word. I'm going to Google it and see if it's there. But anyway, it was beautiful. And, okay, so, there's this guy who came into the picture, right? I don't know this guy. And I remember feeling like, oh, shit, you know, my son was 4, my daughter was 8. And I remember thinking to myself, I gotta share my kids with another dude. Not even like sharing my magazines with anybody, let alone share my kids. Because that concept never really hit home until it happened. And it took me about 2 to 3 weeks of going back and forth with this in my own head. And you gotta do these things. You gotta take time with yourself to do these things. Don't hide with alcohol. Don't go getting high. Don't hide. Don't do any of that. Do the work. Take the time with yourself. If you need someone to bounce these ideas off of, great, but don't tell them, hey, don't you give me your input, just hear me. And if I need your input, I'll hear it. But again, discernment, you know what I mean? They don't know you. They don't know your situation or your heart, where it's at. But it's important that you get this out. So, yeah, at the time I didn't know if I could handle it, and then I realized something, you know. Even though uh-oh, looks like I'm gonna alright, let's see if we can start this and finish this up. So, let's recap. Someone falls out of love with you. The first thing you want to do is have some compassion and empathy for what they're going through first. Alright? It's a knee-jerk reaction to worry about yourself first. And that's totally understandable. Don't react. If you can hold off, if you can pause, if you can give yourself some space to really think about what it is that you can do right now to communicate your feelings for this person, see if it's possible that you could work something out. And when all else fails and you know this person has checked out emotionally from the relationship and they've fallen out of love with you, the best thing you can do for yourself is to love yourself. Best thing you can do for yourself is to love yourself. And again, going back to understanding what true love is, and knowing that if you do truly love them, you want them to be happy, regardless of if it's with you or not. Once you've made those connections the best you possibly can, and you've learned that right now you need to let go and let things happen, the other person comes at you for some reason or another. And whatever your circumstances are, my circumstances was a marriage. Obviously, we were very invested. You know, we had a home and stuff. You know, all the stuff. You're going to have to realize that there is going to be some material bullshit involved. If you truly have a strong disposition with yourself to let go of the emotional turmoil and have more compassion and empathy, if you can let go of the material stuff, which most people can't, because that's where they trick you. All right, that's where television and movies trick you into thinking that that's what you should get angry if they take the TV or all that other stuff. It's just stuff. It's just stuff. You know, if you think about it, back in the day, and this is 2004, we had one of them big, you know, we had a big TV, you know, one of those big ones, but it was a big fat back, but it was one of the best ones at the time when we bought it, but it was one of those, the technology changed so quick, you couldn't give those things away in 5 years later. You couldn't, I put that sucker out there on the curb, nobody would take it. I had to throw it away. And when I was throwing that away, which took me another few years because it was stuffed on the side of my garage, holy shit, did I see piles of those things. So stuff is just stuff. It has no place for your soul. Okay? So, you know, you can always replace stuff. But the key is to heal your heart. For yourself. For yourself. And coming back to what I said in the beginning about being whole. You need to be... Two halves don't make a whole. Alright? If you two sad-ass people trying to make a whole, it ain't going to work. Alright? It's not. It's toxic. Now, there's also some relationships that have sort of an interdependency. You know? There's a dependency there. But there's an interdependency where... I'm going to try this perspective real quick here, because I'm going to have to take off, I'm sure, pretty damn soon. Let's see how we do this. Okay, so the all right. I'm just going to end this real fast here because I'm probably going to end up getting pained again. But I'm going to kind of see where I left off in my head because I didn't re-look at the video. When somebody falls out of love with you, you owe it to yourself to take a step back. Don't try to manipulate the situation. Get real. Get honest. Yes, it hurts. Let it out. Okay? That's the one thing I didn't do for a while, is let it out. But it came out eventually, over time. You owe it to yourself to express your feelings, not to the person. Obviously, you want to do that so you can see where the other person is, but for yourself, to yourself. So, this is where it's going to be probably the hardest work you have to do, is to fall back in love with yourself again. Realize that you can't control how another person feels. You can try and manipulate it. You can try and play games and manipulate it, but you're not doing yourself any favors. You're not doing them any favors. You're certainly not doing the relationship any favors. Fall back in love with yourself and realize that you have a lot to offer this planet. You have a lot to offer the people who are already in your life that love you. If you have to, reconnect with them. Don't give them your sob story. In fact, I would even suggest try and not repeat the sob story over and over again. Sob story, or the facts and how things went down. In 2 years from now, a year from now, 5 years from now, it's not going to matter. What matters is how you are right now, and this is really all we have is right now. So do yourself a favor and do the work to yourself, for yourself. Build your strength back up for you love yourself again. And you might find where maybe a break from the relationship, or from any relationship for that matter, is what you need. There's a lot of positives to being single for a while. There really are. And personally, I haven't been in a relationship for a very, very long time. And I know I'm totally fine with never being in a relationship again. It'd be nice, but I'm fine if it never happens. You got to get there. You got to get to that place. Because if somebody does come along, and alright, let's see if I can fucking finish this thing. So, love yourself, get that done. And find something you can do where you can actually develop something. Now, some people go to the gym, that's fine. But I'm talking about like an expressive activity. because the opposite of depression is expression, and it makes sense. Expression, paint, draw, write, create, and share. If you can create and share from a place of love, and maybe pain will come through, and that's fine. Hey, get it out of you. Maybe somebody else, they won't see your pain, but they'll appreciate your work. Maybe nobody will appreciate your work, but at least get it out of you. So that's it. I mean, the other things, and if you have kids, the way I tried to make this work was, for me, as I was raising them into the adults that they are, because they're adults now. I have a 22-year-old and an 18-year-old. And right up until each one of them graduated, I never said anything negative about my ex-wife. I would never put her in the light of negative, because none of us are perfect, all right? And these kids are going to grow wiser eyes. They'll see it. They'll see me and her and everybody else in their lives for who they are as time progresses, as they age. So make sure that you're coming from a place of grounded love, compassion, empathy. Do your best to deflect the negative things that come your way, and they're going to come your way, from your significant other, if that is the case, and it happens. And try not to retaliate. React, handle it, move on. The goal here, when somebody else falls out of love with you, and it takes you by surprise, is to find a way to fall back in love with yourself. Because initially that's how it was, right? I mean, you were in a good place, and you know, you were ready, and you liked this person, and you moved forward. Somewhere along the line, sometimes people become dependent upon the relationship to define them. The relationship doesn't define you. They change. So I don't know. This is a long-winded video. I had to do this 3 different times. I'm probably going to get pinged again here pretty soon. But I just wanted to express myself this way to anybody out there who is in need of some kind of an encouraging word, and your heart is hurting. Find a way to fall back in love with yourself is my best advice. In that, I think you'll find peace, and I think you'll find comfort, that you are going to be okay, and everything's going to be okay. And if you can do that, I think you can find a way to live in this world without feeling trapped by a thought pattern, a neurotic holding pattern that says you're not worthy, or you're not good enough, or you're an idiot, or look, the other person's probably going to find all kinds of faults in you to justify their actions. You can't control that. All you can do is be truthful and be honest. That's it. I mean, I think that's the gist of it. If there's anything else, I'm sure I'll add it, but for the most part, I think I'm done here. All right. Take care. Peace.